Hey everybody, welcome to the Bark Knight Podcast. We are at episode 51, or episode 50 part 2, depending on how you look at it. But if you're considering it part 2, you don't have to watch part 1. So, today, we are doing the Franchise Battle Royale.
All right.
So, your host here, Patrick, painstakingly prepared a whole bunch of different franchises in a bracket that we are going to talk about and decide which ones are better than the others until we have our grand winner of the Franchise Battle Royale.
Royale.
So, I'm your host, Patrick. Dan and Paul are with me here today, so why don't you two take a moment to introduce yourselves?
Yes, my name is Dan Carter, longtime film nerd, good friend of Pat. Been on this podcast quite a few times, and I enjoy being on here talking film with you guys.
Yeah, I'm Paul Beverly. I am one of the co-hosts of Reset and Rewind. I'm also friends with Pat and Dan, and pretty excited to name Star Wars as the best franchise in this Battle Royale.
You know, it would be hilarious if I didn't put Star Wars.
That would be hilarious.
Star Wars
It's
was
just
the 17th.
deep cut franchises. Like,
I'm telling you, Bridget Jones's Diary, number
That's
one,
great.
the Bridget
That's really
Jones franchise.
okay, how do you want to do it? I could review all of the different franchises that I have. I'll just do that because you're going to see them anyways when I share my screen. So I am going to figure out how to share my screen. Alright, so first off, so I kind of separated these into sort of like genres because I wanted to mix things up a lot.
All right.
The first grouping here is like sci-fi, fantasy, comic booky things. Things that aren't like giant franchises but lean towards sci-fi a little bit. So we got Back to the Future and Ghostbusters, Alien and Dune, Blade Runner and the Matrix,
Wow.
X-Men and Spider-Man,
Oh boy.
Final Destination and Evil Dead,
Okay.
Saw and The Conjuring, Scream and Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween. So obviously this was the horror section. And then, so these are more like, I don't know how to spell here apparently. These are action franchises. So Mad Max and Die Hard, Kingsman and Jason Bourne,
Okay.
John Wick and Mission Impossible, The Fast and the Furious and James Bond, Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. I had to put these against each other.
You had to.
that
You
makes
really
sense.
did.
The Dark Knight and the Snyderverse, The Hunger Games and Twilight, and Star Wars versus the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
It's going to be hilarious to eliminate one of those right off the bat.
Right.
It is. It's so. This is. I don't like. I had a little bit of strategy in how I did this. I could have done this many different ways, but I was like, let's come out with these that are very similar right off the bat, and then they're going to be like, we're going to have these versus each other here. I mean, whoever. They're gonna lose, but but yeah. So let's get into it.
All right.
All right.
So the way we're gonna do this is that we go each one of these down, and then we so I'll click on it. We jump into it. We have a little bit of discussion. Everybody sort of says their piece with it, and maybe we argue about these, and we do this and that. We talk, get your case out there of why you think one is better than the other, or why one is worse. And then once we think we're good, we vote.
These are strictly films too. We're not going into like games or video games or anything like that, right?
This is franchise.
Comic books. It's just
Franchise. Okay.
It's the franchise. So
everything.
Okay.
it's it's really everything because. And you can pitch it that way too. It really is about how you pitch it. You can talk about all of those things, and the comic books may or may not mean anything to, like, if you are talking about all of the comic books that Marvel, and let's say for Alien, you're talking about all the comic books and from Dark Horse and Marvel and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can talk about those and maybe they benefit, but maybe Paul and I don't care about the comic books, and we're like, well, that's great. It's a little bit of value add, but not for me. So,
I assume it's just a 2/3 vote then.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest question I've ever asked. Please cut that out.
They're not. What else would it be?
Who decides it? Do we have a poll?
Okay, so first up, Back to the Future versus Ghostbusters.
I mean, I'm going to say that this is probably the hardest one of the bracket, except for the Star Wars Marvel, which we'll get to. It's a toss-up for me. I adore Back to the Future in general. I think this is a Zemeckis film. It's really good. I don't know. And it's culturally relevant in the zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. Ghostbusters, very similar to me. Very relevant, has some great performances. It's really a coin flip. I have no idea. I would probably defer to the group on this one. I love them both equally, I think.
Right. And that's kind of where I'm at too. I will say that Back to the Future is pretty much just the 3 movies, right? We got Back to the Future 1, 2, 3. There hasn't really been anything else outside of it. So the franchise is basically just those 3 movies. Whereas Ghostbusters, you have Ghostbusters 1, 2, 2016, Afterlife, Frozen Empire, which, say what you will about those, a couple of those movies are questionable quality, but I mean, Ghostbusters 1, 2 are iconic, but so are Back to the Future 1 and 2. So I don't want to discount Back to the Future. I just want to say there might be more to the Ghostbusters franchise than there is the Back to the Future IP. And also, there's a very good PlayStation 3 game, Ghostbusters, the game, I think it's just called, and it's excellent. So that gets a little bit of a weighted point for me on that.
Let me throw a curveball in here. Are we considering Rick and Morty part of Back to the Future in general? Because I can't separate Rick and Morty from Back to the Future. It's just feels like such a connection point there. Like, I don't know.
All right, so here's where my head is at with this. The Rick and Morty thing, that is a complete curveball that I hadn't considered. But I would consider that more like inspired by than... Like, they're not paying any money to the Back to the Future people. That's for damn sure.
True. Yeah. True.
And so, like, Back to the Future, they are better movies. And it's a better trilogy. Back to the Future is one of the best movies of all time. And Back to the Future 2 is one of the best sequels of all time. And, I mean, they've undoubtedly made a ton of money on, like, syndication. I actually really like Back to the Future 3 as well. I think it's really underrated. Some people like to doo-doo on it, but I enjoy it pretty much every time I watch it.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Ghostbusters, on the other hand, you've got... I mean, Ghostbusters 1 is an absolute classic, and I enjoy most of the other movies to a certain extent. I haven't seen Frozen Empire, but if you're thinking about franchises, now, Ghostbusters has a ton of toys. My favorite toy growing up was a Ghostbusters house. It had the Ghostbusters car. I had all Ghostbusters. I had the whole team. You've got Halloween costumes.
Saturday morning cartoon.
You've got the cartoon. I had that on VHS growing up. And now it is... I think I read the other day that they're talking about doing a reboot of that cartoon to bring that back.
The real Ghostbusters, I think it was called?
Yeah. And that was an amazing cartoon.
Great theme song.
Yeah, and you've got the music too. You're selling a lot of those records. It was an absolute hit song for the movie. The theme was,
Ray Parker Jr., is that right?
That sounds right.
I feel like, though, everything that you just said, you could also say about Back to the Future.
Absolutely.
Like, it's got great music, Halloween costumes. I know more people who went as Marty McFly than anybody else. Like, toy-wise, there is a little bit of a lean towards Ghostbusters, but collector-wise, like, people buy die-cast versions of the DeLorean all the time. There's high-quality action figures of the Back to the Future group.
Huey
And in
Lewis,
terms-
the songs.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, this is a real toss-up for me. Everything that you said, you could also say to Back to the Future about Ghostbusters. I will say, if we're going down actors, like, I give the nudge to Ghostbusters than I do Back to the Future. As much as I love Christopher Lloyd, and Michael J. Fox, I think Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd are infinitely better. The much, much better actors. They have a much better oeuvre of films and television shows and all of the things associated with it. So if we're going that direction, I give it the leaning towards the Ghostbusters. Yeah.
It kind of hurts to... It feels like I'm discounting Back to the Future. I do not want to come off that way. I think it's like those three movies, absolutely everyone should probably watch them at some point in their life, but if we're going like franchise overall, I think Ghostbusters is a stronger franchise.
Well, you could do spin-offs in Ghostbusters too. I don't see spin-offs happening with Back to the Future. In fact, I don't think anything for Back to the Future. I don't know that anything's ever going to get made for it again. You know?
No, I don't think so. I think Back to the Future is a time capsule of
That's a good way to put
filmmaking
it.
of that time. So I don't know if we're going
like a Lewis and Janine spin-off. You know?
Yeah.
They could do origin stories for all these guys. Like I would watch an entire movie of just Ernie Hudson's character, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's still killing it as an actor.
Right. And like even the most recent Frozen Empire movie I didn't love, but he's in there and like he's like running like this whole like pseudo Ghostbusters operation. I'm like, give me that movie. There's room for that. But like as you said with Back to the Future, if they did a soft reboot of that franchise now with a different actor, it'd be rough to pull off. I don't know if you could. I'd check it out, but I think the franchise for Ghostbusters is still live and well.
Yeah. All right. Let's give it to Ghostbusters. My vote's towards Ghostbusters.
I vote
I vote
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters. Yep, same here.
Hey, we're in there. Boom. Submit. I have no idea what's about to happen.
Explosion.
It worked. All right. Now here's a tough one.
Yeah.
All right. If we are going franchises and includes it includes books and everything, I have to give it to Dune. Hands down. From a sci-fi nerd who's read a lot of books, I've read all of what Dune has to offer. Dune is like a seminal science fiction book. I think you could argue that it is the science fiction book. Like, when you think of modern science fiction, it is Dune. Frank Herbert kind of, cemented that genre. And the movies are phenomenal. Even the kind of weird studio interference that happened with David Lynch's film, I still love that movie. Jodorowsky's Dune, that whole stuff revolving around it, that's great as well. I think Dune gets the lean for me, and it really hurts because I think the Alien franchise is fantastic, and it's still going, and it has so much lore and so much depth. Prometheus, Alien Resurrection, all of those, kind of quote-unquote spin-offs, and the television show that's coming out, all of the comic books, but I have to give it to Dune here. I think my vote, my conscience wouldn't let me sleep at night if I did give it to Dune.
All right, Dan, you might be the tiebreaker on this one, so I'm going to step in right now and do my pitch for Alien. And I truly think this is just taste for me. So I haven't read the Dune books, not any of them. I've not seen the 80s movie. I've not seen the miniseries that they did back in the 2000s. I've only seen the two Denis Villeneuve movies. And so going to Alien, I've played a ton of the video games.
Mm-hmm.
The video games are so strong too, and I've been playing them since I was a kid. I've been playing them since Super Nintendo, I believe. Super Nintendo? Yeah.
Yep.
I had Sega, but yeah, there was a Sega game.
Yeah, and I literally remember renting both the movies and at least one of the video games. I feel like was there a Alien versus Predator game for
Definitely.
PS3?
Yep.
Oh yeah, though there was for that too. I had the PS3 one, but there was one for Super Nintendo as well.
I remember renting that from Video Fantasy. It was our local small town video.
Yeah,
game
yeah, it was great. It had Pogs.
Yeah. I've got a ton of the action figures to go along with it. I have physical copies of all of, the movies here. I've got a physical copy of a documentary even made on the movie. I've got the popcorn buckets. I'm looking at one of the action figures right now. We've played the board games. Lots of good board games for Alien as well. And
good board games for Dune.
There are really good Dune board games as well.
There are, and I think I have played at least one of those. I think it was Battle for Arrakis, and that was actually really good. The whole Nemesis franchise is basically
a ripoff. Not a ripoff, but what's the word here?
Aliens.
What's the nice way to say ripoff?
Homage.
Homage. Thank you.
And so, yeah, I think for me, I think there is a bit more breadth to the Alien franchise, but I think for me, a lot of it comes down to my taste. I do think it's more popular. But, I don't want to take anything away from the Dune franchise either, because I will say, what you say about it sort of being like the grandfather of science fiction and all of what that entails and its legacy and everything, like, all of that is extremely strong and it's extremely meaningful and it has stood the test of time. But franchise-wise, and now we got commingling with the Predator franchise.
Yeah.
And we got movies coming out, and we got this Hulu show that you were talking about. That looks super good. I mean, there's so much going on, and it's all strong and awesome. So at this point, my vote's going to Alien. So, Dan.
Right. Okay.
Think carefully.
Think carefully. And yeah, I want to preface this by saying that I was late to the Dune party, so I might be a bit of a biased voter here. Alien is a very important franchise to me. I grew up with it. It was one of my first like I had the action figures, the Kenner action figures growing up. I love those. Played all the video games growing up. I was going to bring up as my tie-breaking thing, as the reason why I was going with Alien, is one specific video game called Alien Isolation, which I don't know if you guys have played that. It is one of the best survival horror games ever made, and it is just, it's that franchise. Dune needs to be respected for, what did it come out, 1965-ish? Or something like that, like
a long time ago.
Yeah, so it's definitely like one of the granddaddies of science fiction, and it needs to get the respect that it deserves. But the Alien franchise has just been consistent my entire life, so that's why I'm leaning that way, and that's why I think I put my vote to Alien.
I don't have any. I don't have any ill will towards you guys on this, but I will say you got to read the books. Like, I think this would all sway if you've read a lot of the books. Some of them aren't great quality, but the depth of the lore, the world building in Dune is so rich, and it's crazy, and it's also, I mean, we'll talk about this when we talk about Star Wars, but like, I don't know if you have Star Wars without Dune in many ways, and I don't really know if you have Alien without Dune in many ways. So, but I'm happy to. This is one where I'm happy to lose as well. So
nope, that's right. Dang, we'll be on your side soon, I promise.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like we have our winner.
This one, I think there's a clear winner here.
You see, you say that,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure where your head's going to go with this. So, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I mean, I love Blade Runner, but my vote goes to Matrix. Like, the Matrix franchise Blade Runner is great, and it, as a standalone film, the first one and Denny's take on it is the sequel. They're great. They're great films. But The Matrix was revolutionary, both from a film standpoint and from just taking this whole cyberpunk mentality and popularizing it. And it launched the careers and revived the careers of many people. You think about Lawrence Fishburne and all of the misses that he had in the 90s. And then he comes back in The Matrix and is just like, it revived his career. You talk about Keanu Reeves and how this kind of like establishes the way that he goes forward with John Wick. And let's not forget, like, Hugo Weaving is awesome in this movie. Like, this is a great Hugo Weaving film.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's Joey Pants, who is just such an asshole in the first movie, but I love his performance a lot too. Yeah, The Matrix gets it for me. I mean, I know the sequels aren't as good. They're still fun, and the lore of The Matrix is great. And as a franchise, so many toys, so many games, so many things inspired by it. Yeah, my vote goes to The Matrix. Even though I think I like Blade Runner and its sequel more than I like any of those films in The Matrix, I still would vote for The Matrix on this one.
Right, and I have not seen the Blade Runner films. Kind of infamously on this podcast now, I know they're good. I need to watch them, but Matrix, the first one, is like a quintessential action flick. Like, it's one of the best action flicks ever made, and it changed film. Like, how many times do you see it parodied or the same kind of stylings used after that movie came out? The sequels I was down on for the longest time. I actually watched Reloaded recently and had a good time with it. I enjoyed it. Revelations, I gotta watch again. It's been many years on that, and the most recent one. Okay, I won't watch it again.
Oh, Revolutions? You mean?
What did I say?
Revelations. And
that's the
when you
newest
said that,
one.
I pictured Resurrections.
Okay, Resurrection's the most recent one. That one I didn't enjoy.
Do I have that right?
I think so.
Reloaded, Revolution.
Yeah.
Resurrection. I think so. Well, not Resurrection.
Is it Resurrection? But yeah, so like, and I know Resurrections, okay. And like Blade Runner, I know like the critical darling movies, but like both kind of didn't really make it. Like, I know we shouldn't talk about box office being like a big thing, but that does kind of feed into it. Like the Denis Villeneuve one is apparently great, but like no one, like, it didn't do much at the box office. So I know that's kind of like a stickler point, but I'm just kind of trying to think of a way other than saying I haven't seen it to vote for Matrix.
Well, I'm gonna say so. I'm gonna say my piece on the Blade Runner franchise because I think it deserves somebody in its corner right now. So I love the Blade Runner movies, and I just watched the original, well, the final cut of the original one, in between last week's episode and this week's episode, and I think the greatest strength of that franchise is in its potential. And so with that being said, I know it's not going to win, and I kind of always knew it wasn't going to win, but it does have a TV show that's about to come out, and I think that's going to really kill it. Yeah, it's Blade Runner 2099. So they're basically going in like 50-year increments. And it's one of the only franchises out there to like successfully exhibit like that whole like cyberpunk neo-noir sort of futuristic feel to it that is so popular in basically every other medium. And so it's got comic books, it's got a TV show on the way, and it's got multiple movies, and both movies are absolutely fantastic. And I mean, they've sold a lot on physical media.
That's true.
And so the only reason I'm going to give it my vote because, and I know it's a losing vote. This will be my Dune vote.
There you go.
I just like the franchise more. I think would be it. But I do agree that The Matrix is probably a better franchise overall, like a bigger franchise.
Bigger franchise is the way to say it.
Not better, but a bigger franchise.
Yeah.
Because, you got... nobody said Enter the Matrix.
I was saving it for the next round.
Yep, or the Animatrix.
Animatrix, too, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I get it. I think that the movies never lived up to their potential after the first one.
First one's the best by
No.
far.
I think there are parts of the second and third, like the architect scene where he's like, ergo, vis-a-vis. Like, that scene is
Will Ferrell-
such a weird scene that if I could have directed it and gone in it, I would have done it differently. I think there's so much potential in that thing, but I agree. I just think
Do you
those
remember the VMA thing that
Will Ferrell
With Will Ferrell,
murdered it.
yeah.
Oh my god, it's the best. Like, you can't watch that scene without thinking of that anymore. Like, it's just so
Exactly. Oh. I think, I don't know, when I think of, like, going to the theaters and having a good time with a movie, I think of The Matrix. Like, every time that I went to the theaters and saw a Matrix film, even the newest piece of crap one, I still had a good time with it. I was like, this is great. Like, this is what I expect from this kind of franchise. It's just, like, fun and some sort of, like, dopamine for my imagination. Like, I walk away from those movies thinking, like, here's what I would have done better, and here are the world things that I would take away and put in other franchises. I don't know. I think it's The Matrix.
Yeah, The Matrix wins it. I will say, I actively had a bad time with the new one. I hated it.
I didn't make it
I
through.
walked away not liking it, and then I sat on it for a while and thought, there are some redeeming qualities. I think I could do this better, but there are some redeeming qualities.
You know what I hope? I hope we do this again in 10 years, and Blade Runner has made this massive comeback as a franchise.
Me
I
too.
hope so too.
It does
I hope
something because...
hopefully I've been watched it by then.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. Here's
Oh,
a
boy.
tough one. X-Men versus Spider-Man.
Oof.
I wanted to say Spider-Man.
No, there's multiple.
Mm-hmm.
So, these are two behemoth of franchises. You got the movie franchises for both. You got the action figures for both. You got the Saturday morning cartoons for both. You got them both being brought into the MCU and being folded in and becoming part of that whole juggernaut.
Comic books.
Yeah, comic books, absolutely. Like, and these are two of my favorite comic book series. Like, I've read more X-Men and Spider-Man comics than anything else in Marvel. So I want to just hear your guys' takes on this one. I know that's a cop-out, but I just want to get someone else's opinion out there before I just keep rambling on forever about how much I like both.
Okay.
If we're talking, I'm going to split it into a couple different categories here. All right. If we're talking films, it's Spider-Man. The Tobey Maguire series, the Andrew Garfield series, and the Tom Holland series, they all have ups and downs, but as a totality of film, those are better films all around than the X-Men films. I think, hands down. I think Tobey Maguire's first two films are probably the best two comic book films around. I love those two movies. I would say Spider-Man 1 is my favorite superhero film. So film-wise, I'll give it to Spider-Man. Television-wise, I give it to X-Men. Especially with X-Men 97 that just came out. I think X-Men 97 is the best animated comic book series I've ever seen. It was emotional, it was fun, it was really well done. I think that is the pinnacle for me of like what television comic books should be. And the 90s series of X-Men is really great. There are some ups and downs in it, but I think it's better than the Spider-Man animated series. Comic book wise, this gets a slight nudge to Spider-Man, in my opinion. I have read, my goal at the beginning of this year is to read all of the Spider-Man comics. And I finished it as of earlier this month. And I think Spider-Man as a comic book hero is so fun and so complex. And all of the different people who have written him take such like nuanced approaches to that character. I think X-Men has some huge swings and some huge misses and some huge hits. As an overall series, I think X-Men is really good quality. I think Spider-Man is more fun for me. So In that way, if we rank it, like, Spider-Man gets 2-1 over X-Men, and I'll give it to Spider-Man in that way. But it's a really close 2-1.
I have really conflicted feelings because, so you look at it, and so movie-wise, I agree that Spider-Man 1 and 2 are absolutely fantastic. But you can't forget, on the movie side, we also have Days of Future Past,
X2,
and Logan, and X2. Now X2 is that's right up there, and that might like that and Spider-Man 2 I feel like cancel each other out. And then you've got Logan and Days of Future Past, which are like, when Sarah saw Logan, she was like, I don't know if I ever want to watch a comic book movie again, because I don't think it's ever going to live up to the bar this movie just set, you know?
Yeah, I would agree, but here's a counterpoint. X-Men Apocalypse is a thing. So is X-Men The Last Stand, which I went to the theaters to see X-Men The Last Stand. And I think that is still my least favorite movie experience of all time. I hated that. I'm a huge Cyclops fan, and to watch Cyclops get killed off in the first, 10 minutes of that film made me viscerally angry and violently ill. And as much as Spider-Man 3 is a bad film, it's nowhere close to X-Men 3 or Wolverine Origins. What a piece of trash. Those two bring the whole X-Men franchise movies down.
That's a good argument. I think, thinking about the comic books, I just want to say, Spider-Man comic books, they release 4 or 5 comic books a week.
Mm-hmm. It's nuts.
You've got, you could look at it in the way of X-Men, they release probably 1 a week generally. And then you've got all the characters a lot of times have their own, Wolverine's got
Wolverines and everything, yeah.
But Spider-Man just himself is releasing 4 or 5. You'll have the Amazing Spider-Man, the Spectacular Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales. You've got all of them. They're releasing all of these a week, and all of them are about the same, just different versions of the same comic book character. So I think I'm gonna have to give it to Spider-Man, even though I don't want to. But it's extremely difficult to argue against that popularity,
All right. Well, then in that case, I'm going to put my vote to X-Men just so that they get some representation. You mentioned it, Paul. X-Men 97 made me cry, and I didn't think that was ever going to happen from a cartoon. But, yeah. So that's what I love the X-Men franchise. Gambit's my favorite character of all time. Cyclops is way up there. But the Spider-Man is just, as you guys have said, the Spider-Man 2, one of the best movies I've ever seen, in theater. That was one of my first, this is what superhero movies can be kind of thing. And X-Men, the movies, you guys didn't mention the New Mutants, you didn't mention Dark Phoenix, which are also... So, yeah, I'm fine with Spider-Man getting the win, but I just want to put my vote towards X-Men.
Okay. I only have 3 comic book action figures on my desk. One of them is Spider-Man, and the other one is Wolverine. So, X-Men are represented here. The other one is my personal favorite comic book hero, the Hulk. So, if we did Hulk in this, I would probably give it to the Hulk, regardless of how bad the films have been. But, yeah.
All right. So that completes our sci-fi comic book fantasy section. On to horror. So we got 4 things on horror right now.
Big franchise.
Final Destination versus Evil Dead.
Evil Dead.
I'm going to kick it off with this one.
Yeah, go for it.
And I am going to argue for the Evil Dead. So we basically at this point have multiple franchises. We've got the Sam Raimi movies, we've got Evil Dead 1 and 2, and Army of Darkness. And those have all their own unique style to them. They establish their own unique lore, and it eventually leads into Ash versus the Evil Dead, which expands on all that more. Now you've also got video games that are all based on that. So you've got Fistful of Boomstick. That was for like, what was that? PS3 and Xbox 360, I believe.
I think it might have been PS2, but
Maybe
still,
it was.
same
Maybe it
thing.
was PS2. You've also got the new Evil Dead game that Dan, you and I played a whole bunch of.
We had fun with it.
Very, very, very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun game. And then you've got the completely reestablished new style that was established by Fede Alvarez, and then you've got that expanded upon with Evil Dead Rise, and they're further expanding on that with the new Evil Dead Burn. So they've created this whole thing where you can build on the original lore of the franchise, or you can follow this new lore that's being established, which has its own unique style. And there are action figures out there for this, and there's not been a bad movie in the Evil Dead franchise whatsoever. Now, if you look at Final Destination, for me, Final Destination 1 and 2 and Bloodlines are the only good one. You have 3 good movies, 3 bad movies, no action figures, no toys.
Those would be really terrible action figures.
Yeah.
Dead bodies. That's it.
Dead bodies.
So Final Destination has made, I would venture to say they've probably made more box office dollars.
Yes.
But as a franchise, it's still extremely limited to just the box office. Whereas Evil Dead has expanded well beyond that. So that's my thing. So I'm voting Evil Dead.
Right, and I'm gonna go with you on that. Final Destination have been enjoyable movies. I'd argue that they've only had one truly bad movie. That was the 4th one, I think. I enjoyed the 3rd one with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. And the 5th one I thought was surprisingly good. Bloodlines I think's good, but it's just movies. That's all it is, and we're doing a franchise rank. And Evil Dead, as you said, has expanded. There's the comic book series Ash versus Freddy versus Jason. Like there's all kinds of stuff like that too. So like it is a full pop culture.
I have some Army of Darkness comics too.
Yeah. So that's why I'm also going to vote Evil Dead on this. Like Final Destination, love the movies. I'll watch them anytime you want to, but it's just strictly movies on that. So if we're doing franchises, I think Evil Dead gets it there.
I think Evil Dead 2 was my favorite horror movie of all time. So, like, Evil Dead is the winner for me as well. I think, franchise-wise, I think film-wise, I think star-wise, Bruce Campbell's great. Like, Bruce Campbell's career is launched because of this film, and that's how you want to establish a star of a franchise. Like, I would argue there's nobody who's more inseparable from their franchise other than Mark Hamill in Star Wars. Like, there is Bruce Campbell and The Evil Dead and Mark Hamill in Star Wars, and those are like the 2 prime representations of their franchises, and I love that. I think Evil Dead is great. The first time I saw Army of Darkness, I literally went out and was like, I gotta buy this movie. It's one of the most fun movies, what fun experiences I've ever had in a theater. It was great. So yeah.
You saw Army of Darkness in the theater?
Yeah, it was in Ithaca, New York, and it was playing on one of these like small independent theaters, and I'd never seen Army of Darkness. I'd only seen the first 2 films, and so I went and saw it, and I was like, this is great. This is exactly what I want from a 3rd film. It's just like completely different, fun, kind of silly, kind of stupid, but still great. And it just felt like, yep, that's exactly how I want my franchise to kind of like explode. It's just like, here's something completely different, and here's the next step of where your brain can go. Fill in the blank from there.
That made me think of like the fact that like they've got genre sort of like fluidity too.
Yeah.
You know, they can jump into the super gory, or they can jump into the atmospheric, or they can jump into the funny and still maintain what it is that franchise.
I agree. Yeah, I love it.
All right. Boom, we got a winner. All right, next up, Saw versus The Conjuring.
All right, so for The Conjuring, we're doing the whole universe, Annabelle, and those kind of movies. Even though those aren't the standouts of that franchise, they still get considered, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, I was just thinking overall movie-wise, I think both of these franchises are basically, like, I don't think there's there probably is, but outside of movies, I don't really know. I think that there was a Saw video game that was terrible. I remember playing that way back in the day, but I don't know if there's been anything like Conjuring, like extended past the movies. That being said, I'll let you guys know a little secret. I don't care for the Saw movies beyond the first one. The first one I like and I'll watch, but the rest of them I don't need to watch them. I've seen them each probably about one time. Not a huge fan. Whereas like The Conjuring 1 and 2 are two of my favorite like haunted house kind of movies of the last 20 years. So for me, that's where I'm leaning. I'm leaning towards The Conjuring just because the quality of those first two movies to me is better than anything the Saw franchise has thrown at us.
Yeah, I kind of bow out of that franchise after the third one. I do like the first three, but yeah.
I mean, if we're going box office wise, I think Saw probably wins based on
Absolutely.
like how much it's made. Culturally relevant, like I think Saw kind of exploded the
Torture
gore
porn.
porn, like torture porn sort of genre as a whole. I think it like brought it to the mainstream. It was there, but the Saw franchise just kind of elevated it a little bit more. That being said, the Conjuring movies are better, and I think they invite more rewatches, and I think that they are just more pleasant to be. I have to be in a very specific mood to watch a Saw movie. Conjuring movies, if it's on, it's one of those remote droppers for me. Like, oh yeah, this is on. I'm just gonna put the remote down and watch this thing. This is fine. So yeah, my vote goes to the Conjuring movies as well.
All right. I'm just going to throw my vote at it and save anything else I have for The Conjuring for whoever it faces next.
All right.
Which is The Evil Dead, apparently. All right. Here's a tough one. Scream versus Friday the 13th.
Let me launch in this one. Scream, immediately, for me. Scream was like 90s stupid horror, and I loved the Scream franchise. I still do. I think I'm a little bit more of like a sentimental Scream fan than I am of anything else. It was just like a kind of revolving door of pop culture icons getting killed a little bit too. But also, I think Scream for me kind of was the gateway into, in much the same way I think Friday the 13th would be for a little bit of an older generation. It was the gateway into horror as a franchise, right? It was the way in which many people who were of the age really went to this movie, saw it, and were like, oh, what are other movies quite like this? And then you learned about the slasher fix. You learned about like what it meant for horror as a genre. They're not the best quality, and I think the rebirth of the Scream franchise with the lady who was in Wednesday, I can't think of her name off the top of my head.
Jenna Ortega?
Thank you, Jenna Ortega. I think the rebirth of that is doing very much the same thing that the Scream franchise did in the 90s, which was like introduce the slasher films and horrors to a younger generation and give them a springboard. And so I really do feel like Scream gets the vote for me. I like Friday the 13th, and if this wins, I'm perfectly okay with it. But I would give my vote to Scream here.
Right, I'm gonna second you on all that. I think I know it's tough. I am a big fan of Jason Voorhees. I think he's one of the most iconic movie monsters of our lifetime. I think he's up there with like the Wolfman and Dracula and stuff moving forward in life. But the franchise has been dormant since 2009, and that hurts it. Like Scream is still relevant. Scream's still going out there putting a movie out, making fun of the requel culture, the reboot culture. Like they call that crap out and they put out good movies about it. Whereas Friday the 13th has been kind of relegated to the back burner until it gets its rights figured out, and it's kind of, I think, suffered in the grand scheme of things in the American zeitgeist for that. Like there's that really enjoyable also video game that Pat and I played a bit. That's the only thing that franchise has put out recently that I can think about. So I love Friday the 13th. I hope it gets going again. I hope the franchise gets going, gets more stuff out there. But Scream, that first one, as you mentioned, Paul, it revitalized the slasher movie. It is one of those movies that was important in the horror genre. So for that and the quality of its sequels and the fact that it's remained a quality product, I gotta vote Scream. And it actually hurts me a little bit inside, but yeah.
I'm surprised. I thought I was going to be the only one.
Surprises me.
It hurts.
Man,
it hurts a lot.
Okay.
So allow me to defend Friday the 13th here, because that's getting my vote. And
it hurts.
This is one of those where like I I honestly thought Friday the 13th was going to win this. And so they have a ton of movies, and they have more movies. Now, let me preface this by saying I think the Scream movies are better, and I like them better. But I'm kind of... So one thing I'm really thinking about here is that even though we haven't seen a new thing from the Friday the 13th franchise in a few years, they're still constantly releasing new versions of their franchise because they're so strong. So Arrow Video in the last 2 years has released these new versions of Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, and Friday the 13th 2009 with just new packaging in a 4K edition, and people are eating that stuff up. And those are the 3 worst movies. And so and so, like, physical media wise, people are still buying up the bundled packs. They're still buying up those things, and they both have Halloween costumes. And I think that I see more people dressed as Jason than I do see
Ghostface.
Than I see people as Ghostface. I mean, I was Jason like 2 years ago. Even
I was
I've been
Jason
a couple times.
Like Ghostface too.
I probably have as well. I think when I was a kid, there is a video game. I think there's board games for Friday the 13th. Whereas I think Scream is limited to just the movies and the Halloween costume.
Yeah. I think Scream is much more of like a pop culture, like, in terms of a franchise that's really just isolated towards the movies. I would agree with that. But I don't know. I mean, I just feel... I'm surprised that Dan voted Scream, because I thought I was going to be the Lone Ranger on this.
There's also
so this is
the
great.
Friday the 13th like anthology series from the 90s, and there's that Crystal Lake series that's coming out later this year. So the franchise, it is it's not completely dormant right now. Things are happening.
It's starting to
it was
get back
dormant
up
for years because of the lawsuit that happened between the rights holders.
And like this is like the only franchise I think that could have beat Friday the 13th for me. And it hurts, but I feel okay with my vote. But I am not happy that I had to choose between the two of them this early. But that's okay.
I thought the Friday the 13th video game would have swayed you too.
I do love that.
Out of that.
I do love that. Just so much fun. Just being Jason
Right.
and just going all over the place looking for people. It's great.
People in the comments beat Dan up for this.
This is fair. I would deserve this, but
It is wild. What a stunner.
Yeah, I'm so surprised about that, to be honest with you. I thought Friday the
Wow.
13th had that in the bag. Okay, next up, A Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween. Man, what a duo.
Friday the 13th.
Okay, I'm going to come in defense of Halloween right now. So, you see more people in the Michael Myers Halloween costume than you see in the Freddy Krueger costume. I think that has to count for something. They're both iconic, but I think the stripped down nature of the Halloween one makes it a much more accessible costume. Just get a pair of overalls, get the mask and a knife, you're off to the races. You can have any weapon, but that kitchen knife's the iconic one. Halloween has a board game. I played Dan in that board game, and he got upset.
I did.
he lost, if anybody's wondering. It has a ton of movies, and people argue all the time about which ones are better than the others. You've got the original ones with John Carpenter, the ones from the 80s like Halloween 1 and 2. You've got the anthology Halloween 3. You've got the H2O and Resurrection. You've got all these different paths you can take about what you want to consider canon or not. You've got the Rob Zombie movies. You've got the new trilogy. Like, there's so many different styles that are all based around that idea of Michael Myers on Halloween night. And so I think this franchise is going to be living on for a long time. There's a couple books out there, like tie-in books to expand upon the things that are established in the movies. And they've been around so long that you have a ton of collectibles for Michael Myers as well. Michael Myers does have a lot of action figures that have been released for it as well. But yeah, you got a lot of collectibles that are there. And I just don't think A Nightmare on Elm Street has that breadth of content that this one does have. There's never been, I don't know, I'll just leave it at that. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Dan.
Okay. For me, my vote's also going to go to Halloween. I like Nightmare on Elm Street. I respect it. I think that it's a movie that, like, especially like if you're a horror hound like us, it's one of those ones you're going to watch. You're going to have a good time with it. Robert Englund is iconic. The Freddy Krueger look is iconic. But as you said, there's something just so good about the simplicity of Michael Myers. Just that white face, that blank, emotionless. He's just a force of nature just coming at you. Like in some of the Freddy movies, the quips get a little bit much. The ha 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 kind of thing,
Yeah.
So, and then that also, the franchise has been kind of dormant since Nightmare on Elm Street. Not Nightmares, I'm sorry. Friday the 13th's been dormant as well. When was the last time we had one of those movies? Like 2012-ish, I think. It was that weird reboot where they made him into a child molester, which I didn't enjoy. But yeah, so just to point it out, that is getting my vote.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Halloween's it. Nightmare on Elm Street versus Halloween is, I think, a little bit unbalanced. Like, it's obviously got to be Halloween. Halloween has better movies, in my opinion. In terms of directors, I think it has better directors that have tackled the source. I think there's better actors in it. I don't know what's her name from the first movie? I can't think of her name.
Jamie Lee Curtis?
Heather Langenkamp?
No.
Jamie Lee Curtis?
Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis is one of my least favorite actresses of all time. I do not like Jamie Lee Curtis. I love her in Halloween. She is fantastic. This is like I don't know, like the Mets winning the World Series. Like, it's a team that you don't think should be in the end game, but they are. Jamie Lee Curtis shouldn't work well in this movie. She does. It's just so great. Nightmare on Elm Street, I think the only film that I would actually think it would battle against, in my opinion, is something like It, or like a franchise like that, where the villain is much more clownish and performative. I think Halloween, there's something, I think you guys said it, there's something so scary about the simplicity of just that whole character and the whole franchise. And I don't know. I'll give it to Halloween as well.
Yeah, and what's unfortunate is I think the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise has kind of, the franchise we know is done, right?
Yeah.
Robert Englund's not coming back, and Wes Craven is passed away,
Yeah.
And those two were, the masterminds behind what we know as that franchise. And without them doing it, somebody's going to have to come in and completely reinvent it. And I don't know if they can successfully do that. It's going to take some big hands to do that. Might I say Mike Flanagan? But
yeah, I mean, I just watched Nosferatu, and I thought of Nightmare on Elm Street while I was watching Nosferatu. That is the kind of group that I think would actually be able to take the source material and make it modern for this time. So, I don't know.
That's a good call.
Terrifying.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, next up, we got Mad Max versus Die Hard. Who wants to kick us off?
Yippee-ki-yay, mother. Yeah.
You want to go first? No, Paul, you go first. You go first.
I'm ready. Yippee-ki-yay. Let's give it to Die Hard here. Die Hard, I think Die Hard is timeless. I really love Die Hard 1. I like Die Hard 2. I think Die Hard 3 gets a bad rap. I think it's a really good movie. The more modern versions aren't my favorite, with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I think, wasn't Justin Long or Jordan Long in one of them
Justin
too?
Long
Justin Long, there we go. Yeah, and so, I mean, I don't really love those movies a lot, but as a franchise, there are games associated with Die Hard that I really enjoyed playing. I think Die Hard is a movie that kind of straddles the line for some reason as being a Christmas movie. So I watch it every year, and it's tied to a holiday, and so I think that makes it like a franchise mainstay where it's never going to go away. I think Bruce Willis getting sick has now created Die Hard as this iconic film franchise in a way in which like James Bond is up there too. Like for some reason, because Bruce Willis is like has his illness now, I think it's a much more revered franchise. I love Mad Max. I think Mad Max is really great. I think that there's a lot more lore in Mad Max, and it's a much more fun movie. And I think Furiosa really revitalized everything in that whole franchise. But if I'm going with the timelessness of Die Hard, you can't go against it. I just don't think so. That's my vote.
All right, so I am going to go against it.
I figured.
I'm going to step in because I was just seeing where Dan was going, and I'm hoping that I can change his mind.
You don't know what I was doing.
So, the thing, I love the first 3 Die Hard movies, and you do have those 2. You had computer games, you had the PS1 games. I loved all of those. Now, Mad Max, I think, has proven that it can continue to reinvent itself, and you can move on from the Max character. So you had the 3 movies that had Mel Gibson. Then you got Fury Road with Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron. And then you've got Furiosa with Anya Taylor-Joy. And there's characters in these movies that people have called for spin-offs for that are like, hey, dive more into that. I totally think this could live on as a franchise in TV form. I think it would absolutely kill it. And there's a video game to go along with it that is also very fun. There's probably more stuff out there too, but there is going to be more Mad Max. That much I know. There will be. It'll keep getting made. It'll keep living on. I don't know if we ever see any more Die Hard. We might see a video game, but I don't think we see any more movies from that. Despite how much, I mean, I also watch the first one every Christmas. But like with Bruce Willis getting sick, and like I don't see him ever making one, and I don't know if that franchise can live on without him. So that's why I've got to give it to Mad Max. It's on you, Dan.
It's on me. And Pat, what you said is exactly where I was leaning. The first Die Hard is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a movie me and my dad watch every Christmas Eve while we're wrapping presents. It's a weird little tradition we have. So, Die Hard 1, 2, 3, love them. I actually really enjoy Live Free or Die Hard, the Justin Long one. I think that's fun. Like it stinks that they made it PG-13, but I enjoy that one still. I think Good Day to Die Hard is unfortunately by far the worst movie in the franchise, and it stinks it's the last one we got. Yeah, as you said, the PS1 game was fun. They have a decent board game out there called the Nakatomi Heist or something. That was a good time.
It's great.
And it is a very good franchise. I really thoroughly enjoy Die Hard. But the reason why I am going to go with Mad Max is what you said is that it can continue. Like, if they come out like next year with like Alan Richardson as like, you know, John McClane, I don't know how I'll feel about that.
Right.
So I know movie franchises get rebooted all the time. Characters get changed. I know that. But everything you said, Pat, is what I was going to say. So I feel like I'm just repeating what you said. And I will also go with Mad Max just because of the potential continuation of the franchise. Plus, like, Fury Road is one of my favorite movies of the last 20 years. Furiosa, I think, is one of the most underrated movies that's come out recently, and people just didn't pay attention to it for some reason. Beyond Thunderdome, I enjoyed as a kid, as a dumb little, I know it's bad, but I liked it movie. Like, Road Warriors, didn't love it. Mad Max, was it the second one? Is Road Warrior, then Mad Max, right?
So it's Mad Max, then
Road Warrior, then Thunderdome.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Right. Hey, that second movie gets kind of forgotten about. That movie is fantastic too. So, yeah.
Road Warrior?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just watched that like last fall. Awesome.
Again, this is another one that hurts me because I never thought I'd go against Die Hard, but yeah, I'm gonna give my vote to Mad Max. And oof.
I think that problem is that the John McClane character is tied so closely to Bruce Willis. He is that character, and I don't know how you can make that character without somebody just straight up copying his mannerisms. You know, like, welcome to the party, pal! Like, like quips like that. Like, how does somebody come in and do that without seeming like they're straight up copying him? And can you sell it like that, you know?
the way they tried to do is what they tried to do in the third one, having his son be a spy or something, and it just sucked. The movie sucked, and was it Jai Courtney? Was that a Jai Courtney vehicle? He's not a
Yeah.
good actor, and he just kind of. I'm sorry, the Jai Courtney stands out there. He sucks ass. So he killed the franchise there. If he would have been like they would have cast a good actor in that role, the franchise could have kept going, but he killed it.
I don't know. You know, we talk about films like Singing in the Rain and Casablanca. Weirdly, to me, I think when Bruce Willis passes, and I think we're seeing it right now, Die Hard is going to be in that conversation. Like, it's going to be a movie in which it's tied to a certain time of the year, Christmas. Everybody's going to watch it. It's going to be on all the streaming platforms and on television. And it's one of those franchises that, even though there's not going to be more made, it's just going to be like fossilized in pop culture in a way in which it's just never going to change. Absolutely. And so, in my opinion, like, Bruce Willis is so tied to that character in a way in which it benefits the franchise rather than hurts it. And if we're talking about like the way in which that film, those series of films plays out, like, there's copycats throughout all of action films. Now,
100%.
I love Mad Max, and so I'm not upset that it's winning here, but I just think if we redo this in 10 years, there's going to be a ton more Mad Max films, and we'll probably still end that way, but the argument for Die Hard is going to be even more fossilized in that time, and I think I would still end up going with Die Hard because it's just that seminal of like a film. I think it's that great.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good point. But Mad Max wins.
Oh, God. What follows that up?
Now it's time for Kingsman versus Jason Bourne.
Oh.
All right. I will lead this one off. It's okay with you, gentlemen. And as much as I enjoyed the first Kingsman movie, I feel like that franchise has kind of stalled for me since then. They've been all right. They've been okay, but for Jason Bourne, you have three of my favorite, like James Bond kind of esque ripoffs. Like, what is it? Bourne Identity, Supremacy, and Ultimatum, right?
Yeah.
That trilogy of movies, like, I know they have a fourth and fifth one out there. They have the Jeremy Renner one, which is fine, and then a fifth one that's just Jason Bourne, right?
Yep.
And that one also fine, but those first three movies for me is what makes this the winner. It's just I don't think those first three movies can be touched by anything that Kingsman has put out. Again,
and then you got the book series that they're based on.
Yes, exactly. So also, yes, as you said, it's based on a book series. Kingsman, I think, is based on a comic book series. I think don't quote me on that, but so again, I'm a big fan of the first Kingsman movie, but I think it's one great movie versus three great movies for the franchise, and that's why I would put my vote with Jason Bourne.
I will second that.
I will third that.
Hey, easy one.
I think it's a sweep, in my opinion.
Yep.
And I will save all of my comments for the next round on Jason Bourne.
All right. You got to keep a little in the hopper.
Oh, God, I'm not doing that. I'm just laying it out there.
All right. John Wick versus Mission Impossible. Oh, man. This is a tough one. Anybody want to kick us off?
Not it.
Yeah, I still don't know where I would land.
Okay. Then, I'm gonna preface everything I'm about to say with the fact that I'm still slightly undecided, but I'll at least get the ball rolling.
Yeah, we can just talk about them.
Yeah, so Mission Impossible, it's based on a very old TV show. So it stood the test of time. I think the TV show is from like the 60s. So it's already completely reinvented itself once. If you look back at the early movies and where they've landed now, they've also changed in tone completely in between there. So they've shown that they can do like the general espionage thing. They can also do the ensemble thing. They can also do the blockbuster thing. And I would venture to say maybe Tom Cruise doesn't make any more after this. He probably will. But eventually he won't anymore. and I wouldn't be surprised if the franchise laid dormant for a while after that, but then comes back and completely reinvents itself again. So John Wick, on the other hand, you've got the Keanu Reeves movies, you've got the show that everybody seems to say is terrible, and you've got Ballerina, which is somewhere in between. So it has shown that it can do a TV show, albeit much less successfully. It's done a spin-off. Mission Impossible has not done any spin-offs. Now let's say the guts of the lore that it established. Now John Wick, it has established some extremely unique lore and a visual style to it that as soon as you see it, you know it. You know, anybody that watched The Beekeeper was like, hey, you guys are doing the John Wick thing right now.
100%, yeah.
This is exactly that.
Yeah.
And so you see it and you're like, oh, that's John Wick. That's exactly that. And I think the franchise is going to grow into a behemoth as it goes on. But I kind of got to still give it to Mission Impossible on this one, simply for the longevity's sake and the fact that it's successfully had a show and it's successfully had a movie franchise that is one of the most popular movie franchises ever. So that's where I'm leaning right now. So what do you got, guys?
I am going to agree with you on everything you said. I honestly think like Mission Impossible could be like the American James Bond. Like after Tom Cruise gets done with it, it could be dormant for a few years, as you said, and then they could just go with a new Ethan Hunt, you know, in that kind of role. And that franchise has legs still, I think. But my vote would be for John Wick, because those 4 movies they put out are fantastic. Some of my favorite, like you mentioned, I think they call it gun fu, is the style of it. I think it's what I've heard. And that lore is established. It established an entire world. Like there's, as you said, the Ballerina spinoff. Apparently we're going to get a spinoff with the character of Kane from John Wick 4. He's going to get his own show, his own movie. The series, I guess, kind of wasn't great, and that's unfortunate. I haven't seen it. I know it exists. I just, you know, when you hear something's bad and you already like what you've seen, you don't want to go water it down with anything else. So it's close. I really do enjoy the Mission Impossible movies, but I'm such a big fan of those 4 John Wick movies, and the fact that lore is so strong. The world of assassins, the world of contracts, and, you know, all these different like not clubhouses, you know what I mean. The whole world they have there is so ripe for future adaptations. So that's why I'm going to give my vote to John Wick.
Man, you guys did not make it easy. I love both of these franchises. I think the many different like revivals of Keanu Reeves' career should be studied in history books for all time. Like, think about how many times his career has kind of died and been rebirthed by films like this. Like, I'm blown away that Keanu Reeves is still making movies of this high quality and this action. I think I have to give it to Mission Impossible for many of the same reasons that you're talking about, Pat. The breadth of that franchise is undeniably huge. Like, all of the different stunts that have been done, but really, like, you go back to the first movie and Tom Cruise is lowered in, and like that sweat scene where it's like a activated floor, that like established that franchise from that point on, and it has severely changed tone all over the place. I remember, I don't know if it was the second or the third movie with Anthony Hopkins, and he was climbing up and it was Tom Cruise climbing up a cliff face, and Anthony Hopkins was talking to him like this message will self-destruct, and like it's a great it's a great film. There's also like any franchise that has Philip Seymour Hoffman in it, it gets a win for me to begin with. Like, I loved that man.
Fishburne too.
Yeah, so I give it to Mission Impossible, and I'll save some of my other like thoughts on it for when it goes up against the next heavy hitter.
I am fine with that.
That was a tough one.
Yeah.
And they're both really known for their stunts too, so it's
right. If they ever had that best stunt Oscar, those movies would probably have most of those Oscars. Let's be honest, in the last
100%,
few years.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna start this. Like,
go for it.
Hands down, James Bond. Like, no no fight whatsoever. If we're talking about like blockbuster and the box office success, it's probably Fast and Furious. But talking about like cultural relevance, changing the game, it's James Bond. It's gone through multiple different actors, multiple different decades, multiple different directors. I think the next, I can't remember who is going to be directing the next James Bond. I don't remember who it actually is, but I remember Christopher Nolan was in the running for the next James Bond, and he turned it down.
Villeneuve.
And it's Denny for the next James Bond. Like,
It's crazy.
It's attracting that level of talent to its franchise. Like, the Fast and the Furious, they're fun movies, they're great movies. James Bond movies are some of the best action spy movies. My favorite James Bond is, I think, an argument like it's the one you grow up in. And so I have, like, my cousins really like Daniel Craig. I grew up with Pierce Brosnan. I like Pierce Brosnan a lot. My father grew up with Sean Connery. He's a Sean Connery guy. And so, you have all those different generations talking about Bond. I think it's Bond.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Bond, too.
Yeah, I make like a clean sweep. I think Bond's a stronger franchise than Fast and the Furious. Like, I know Fast and the Furious are popular movies, but in 10 years, we'll probably still be talking about James Bond. I don't know if Fast and the Furious will be anything anyone cares about.
Yeah. We're about to have, look at this.
Look at that battle.
Round.
That's a heavy hitter.
That's something.
All right, Lord of the Rings versus Harry Potter. Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
What are we doing here, guys? Let's move
Lord of the
on.
Rings, right?
So the rings, right?
Yeah, let's just put it all.
Yeah.
3 different marks here.
Yeah.
Um,
Respect Harry Potter, but yeah, it's for me, it's not close.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I was waiting for someone to start. I was like, I'm gonna.
That's a win, hands down.
Okay. I mean, I can we might do the same thing here. I don't know if we got any big Snyderverse fans here, but I mean, Dark Knight all day.
Right. Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises is one of the best superhero trilogies. It's one of the best film trilogies. So, I mean, Snyderverse, there's certain movies in there I enjoy. Aquaman, low-key, made $1 billion. I don't think people remember that. But, yeah, it's Dark Knight for me.
I agree. It's Dark Knight.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, Snyderverse fans. There's nobody here fighting for it. So
someone's gonna.
All right. I don't know.
This is tough, in my opinion. So
I'll lead off then. Yeah. So I think this is a clear win for the Hunger Games. I read the books. I enjoy Jennifer Lawrence as an actress. I thought the movies were entertaining. Personally, I like the books better, but they're easy reads too. You can get through those in like a night. There's something to be said about that. Just simple. It's not. It's like it's the premise of them. The whole like battle royale thing, definitely stolen from like battle royale and movies of that ilk. But Twilight to me is a franchise I could care less about. So Hunger Games gets my vote.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Twilight, so we'll split the vote here. I really enjoy the Twilight books. I like the Twilight films. I know it feels like kind of like a high school adolescence like film and book series, but they're fun as hell. I never really got into the Hunger Games hype and lore. I've read the books. I thought they're fine. The movies are good too. I love Jennifer Lawrence, but I got the Twilight fever. Like, I read those books. I was really into it, and it was just silly, stupid. And I enjoy vampires versus werewolves a lot more than I do, like, fighting over class rankings. Yeah, like, so I would give it to Twilight.
You guys couldn't just make this easy on me.
Nope.
Okay, let me explain where my head's at right now. I've never read or seen anything Twilight related, so I'm judging this on the outside looking in on what I have witnessed. One cannot argue with the fact that the Twilight franchise is extremely strong. It was a phenomenon when those things were released, and you had the toys, you had fast food chains fighting over it, like get the Edward collectible mug and the the whole thing. It was truly a phenomenon. And I mean, the books and the movies have all made boatloads of money. I've not seen them though. And then we've got the Hunger Games. I've seen all those movies. They did popularize. They did. That was the beginning of the end for the 2-part final movie.
Yeah, they really screwed that up.
They really screwed that up. But they did just release another one. And so the franchise is kind of going strong. Whereas, like, the Twilight movies have really, like, they've got more haters than anybody's business out there. And I can't help but wonder if that phenomenon that was surrounding all of those, you know, all of Twilight, if that can't happen again, you know? Like, I don't think that's something that can happen twice. Maybe they could duplicate something like... I don't... You know, I don't think it matters. Because whoever wins is going to lose to Star Wars or the MCU.
We don't know
yes, 100%.
We don't know that.
We 100% know that.
I mean, I hate to do it, but I think I got to give it to Twilight, just because it's like I do think that it is a stronger franchise. You know, I think the books have probably sold more, the movies made more.
I don't know about that.
It's a whole phenomenon. I don't know.
I think the Hunger Games movies made a lot more money than you think, but I don't know for sure.
No, I mean, I know that they were, but I felt like the Hunger Games movies were trying to capitalize on what Twilight. And what was the other young adult one that happened before Hunger Games?
I just remember the crappy one, like Maze Runner and Mortal Instruments and the Aragon that didn't take off, but yeah. There was a bunch trying to do it.
Anyways, I think I have to give it to Twilight simply for those reasons I just stated. As I said, I don't think it matters because it's going to get stomped in next round.
Very heavily.
So, I mean, I got to give it to this, even though I don't like the franchise. That but that's not what we're talking here, right?
No, right.
It's a fun series. You give it a read and give it a watch.
Okay.
All right, I might do that.
Okay, now here's the tough one.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to start it off. Let me throw the fastball right down the middle. It's Star Wars, guys. Like, I don't think we have a conversation on blockbusters, on movies in general, without Star Wars. It's lasted since the 70s. If we're talking toys, Star Wars is the toy franchise. They have that wrapped up and sealed. Comic book wise, they're not as massive as Marvel in many ways, but if we're talking just the cinematic universe and that comic book stuff, like, Star Wars has that wrapped up too. The movie wise, MCU has made boatloads more money, I agree, but I think that the quality of movies, I do not think there are any movies that touch the quality of Rogue One, of Star Wars 1, and of Empire Strikes Back. Those three movies are better than anything the MCU has put out, in my opinion. And I'll go even so far as to say, like, the Raimiverse Spider-Man and, like, all of that. I think those three movies are way better. In terms of, like, launching careers of people, I think it's Star Wars. Again, I don't know. I love the MCU, but I think that this is, like, a slam dunk for me on Star Wars. I don't know. I would go Star Wars. And I will kick and scream if it loses.
Dan, go ahead.
Yes, I understand all that, and I respect the opinion on that, but I gotta go with the MCU. Growing up, giant, like, comic book nerd and, like, everything, and, like, as you said, X-Men, Spider-Man, that's all before this. Since Iron Man launched this franchise, there's been nothing bigger in the world. Movie-wise, TV-wise, comic book-wise, merchandise-wise. Like, I know Star Wars was it for toys. Like, that was, you're absolutely right. Like, those action figures, like, some of them are worth, like, thousands and thousands of dollars, and there's no comparison there that ways. But you can't go into a store without seeing something with the MCU, the Marvel Avengers logo on it. Shirts, cups. Cups, I don't know why I went cups second, but you know what I mean. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And, like, We're like 30 some odd movies into it. Like, I know quantity is not always over quality, but I mean, there's good movies there. Like, as I said, Iron Man's fantastic, Guardians of the Galaxy, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Avengers, Endgame, and Infinity War.
Infinity War.
Yeah, like those, like, again, those two movies I said before, like in Endgame when Avengers Assemble moment happened, it's one of the best things I've ever experienced in a movie theater. And then you have the TV series, which get kind of a bad rap, but I find most of them enjoyable. Secret Invasion was garbage, and She-Hulk wasn't good, but like, Loki's been good. It's just such a behemoth modern day, and like Star Wars is still going too. Like, I'm not gonna knock it on that front, but I just think, like, if we're going over longevity, it's Star Wars, absolutely. But just for what it is right now, like, I think the MCU gets my vote.
I mean, Andor just came out, man.
Sure,
and Andor is probably the best television show of the year. But I hear what you're saying. Pat, what are we doing? Come to the dark side.
Okay. Well, Dan, you talk a hard bargain, but I've got to give it to Star Wars.
All right.
So, Star Wars, one of the things I think is most impressive about Star Wars is the fact that it has gone on all of this time and never had to reset. They've never had to do a reboot of the universe. And Kevin Feige just announced over the weekend that after the next Avengers movie, or rather Secret Wars, they're going to reboot the universe. And so they're already at that point. Also, those Star Wars movies, the original 3, it's like one of the best trilogies ever made. And it's much more accessible because you can watch Avengers Endgame, but you have to watch 15 movies or whatever it is leading into it to get there.
Oh, sure.
You have to watch them. You have to watch all of them. And you can just roll in and watch the original trilogy of Star Wars, call it a day, bounce, and you're completely fine. And so I think that in that regard, it's a strength for Star Wars that somebody can be like, oh, if you like war movies, you can just watch Rogue One, and that's great. Whereas there's such an interconnectivity that is both a strength and a weakness of Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, I will say, if we were just talking Marvel, we'd be having a completely different conversation.
I would agree, yeah.
But if we're just talking the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it has the movies, it has the shows, it has the games, it has the comics. It's got all these tie-in things. But I just think Star Wars is the winner. So
I'm not going to cry. I'm happy.
Totally going to vote Twilight next round.
Dan's going to try and be the...
No, I'm not.
The upset. Okay. We've officially made it to the second round of this. So let's kick it off. First up, we got Ghostbusters versus Aliens. Anybody want to kick us off?
Right. I'll kick it off and say that I as I said earlier, big fan of Ghostbusters, but to me it's Alien. I think there's just a stronger franchise. As we said, they're trying to do it. Ghostbusters trying to keep it going, but they're still relying on, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray. Like, those characters are still the cornerstones of that franchise. Whereas Alien, we just had the Fede Alvarez movie last year, and like, where's he going to go with it now? We have a whole new cast of characters to carry on the franchise, and then we have the Alien Earth series coming out soon. I just think that the Alien franchise is going to keep growing and growing, and Ghostbusters is still it's not bad. It's enjoyable what they got going on, but it's still kind of relying on your nostalgia to keep it going. So that's why my vote's going Alien on this one.
Yeah,
100% agree. Yeah, no. I think Alien is a stronger franchise. It has better lore, better grasp on its material. I think Ghostbusters has some great films, but beyond that, I think there's a lot of fumbling of that franchise in trying to establish it beyond, like, Dan Aykroyd and the original group. Like, they fumble that ball, whereas Alien, like, there was an initial fumbling with trying to figure out what you do without Sigourney Weaver, but I think they figured it out, and it's gonna go big. I really liked the last Alien movie. I don't think I liked it as much as any of the other Sigourney Weaver films, but I liked it and it has potential. I can't wait for this television show. Yeah, well, let's just say I don't like it as much as the first two Sigourney Weaver films, but I think it's great. Yeah, it goes to Alien, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with all you guys. Same exact reason. It seems like Ghostbusters is still... they're very much struggling with establishing themselves as an actual franchise outside of that nostalgia. You can just see them struggling with this new group of movies. And so, yeah, I think Alien gets it because they're still extremely successful today.
That Ghostbusters PS3 game, though, is a lot of fun if you guys haven't played it.
Yeah.
Played it. All right. The Matrix versus Spider-Man.
I'll lead off on this one, too. I think this is a slam dunk for Spider-Man for me. As we said, the Sam Raimi trilogy, well, most of the Sam Raimi trilogy is great. Amazing Spider-Man 1, I thoroughly enjoyed. I like the Tom Holland movies a lot. He's got the comic book backing. Spider-Man's he might be the Marvel character. Like, if you really think about it, like the Avengers, sure, they've grown in popularity. But as a kid, who was it? It was Spider-Man. Like himself, like he carried that publisher forward for years and years and years, and he's probably their most iconic character. And yeah, I think hands down for me, it's Spider-Man.
I would agree. I think The Matrix is great. I think The Matrix is a great film and has some great lore in it, but Spider-Man, we haven't even talked about Into the Spider-Verse films.
No, I was saving
how
that.
great they are. That's some great animation there too. And if we're talking about Spider-Man as a whole, in the Marvel Universe, I think there's the big three. There is the Hulk, there's Wolverine, and there's Spider-Man. And Spider-Man has carried that whole Marvel Universe for a very long time. And the movies are great, the comics are great, the show is great. I think it wins.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even think The Matrix should have made it to this round, so...
Whose fault was that?
Spider-Man it is. Oh man, that's gonna be a doozy right there. All right, Evil Dead versus The Conjuring. All right, I'm gonna lead us off on this one. So I'm gonna say The Conjuring is, I think, much stronger than a lot of people give it credit for. You do have the 3 main Conjuring universe movies. They've got another one coming out this year to cap that main franchise with Patrick Wilson and
Vera Farmiga.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the Nun movies. You got 2 of those.
Forgot about those.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you got the Annabelle movies. You got 3 of those. One of them made by Mike Flanagan.
One of them's good.
You've got The Curse of La Llorona, which is kind of a piece of trash, but it's still a horror movie that is serviceable enough.
It's watchable.
Yeah. What else do we have in there? I feel like there's
something we're missing, but I can't think of anything.
Yeah. Well, and then there's everything I said about Evil Dead last time. So I think my vote's going to go towards Evil Dead, despite everything I just said.
Right. Well, yeah, I was gonna do the same thing. Just say the Conjuring franchise is, as you said, better than people think. But Evil Dead just been around longer, and I feel overall it's a stronger product. As we said, like, you have almost 2 different tones, but somehow it works for the franchise. So I think that's a strength. And yeah, I would go with Evil Dead as well.
I would agree, hands down. I don't really think there's an argument beyond, like, The Conjuring has more. I think it has huge potential. And like we said, if we come back in 10 years, I think this conversation could be a little bit different. Like, there's a ton of potential for The Conjuring to really, like, be a phenomenal franchise. And it already is, but I think Evil Dead wins it.
All right. Sorry, The Conjuring.
Bye-bye.
All right, now here's one. Paul.
Oh.
You were the big the work of you and Dan got Scream this far, so
I don't know how it got here. I have to give it to Halloween, though, at this point. Like, I love Scream. I think it's a great horror series. I think Halloween wins this by far. It's so diverse in the way in which it approaches the character. I think there's not better, but there's also like more creative directors in Halloween franchise. I would give it to Halloween.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo that. Say that every Halloween, there's 2 movies I watch every Halloween night, and Halloween is one of them. And it's iconic, and there would be no Scream without it. So yeah, I think Halloween wins hands down.
Halloween is so good that it is in the Scream movie.
Yep, exactly.
Scene of Halloween in Scream.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Great point.
Behind you, Jamie. Behind you. That's a great little moment because the actor is Jamie Kennedy, so it just works. But yes, Halloween's a better movie franchise.
I had never put that together. That's a really nice call, Dan.
You're welcome.
All right. Next up, Mad Max versus Jason Bourne. So I'm going to lead us off because I argued for Mad Max last time. I'm going to continue to argue for Mad Max this time. I still think that this franchise is going to keep going. It's got multiple generations of movies. It's got video games. Did somebody say there's a board game for this?
There's the really enjoyable video game, but I don't know about board game.
The video game, yeah. I don't know if there's a board game. There might be.
I haven't seen it. It's possible.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there is.
That's kind of surprising.
I mean, Jason Bourne, we got the movies, we got the books. With this, we've got 2 generations of movies. It has shown that it can continue on without its star. Jason Bourne has shown that it cannot. You know, they tried to move in Jeremy Renner, and that movie was not successful. They had to shift back to Matt Damon. So, Mad Max has my vote.
Yeah, and I'm going to follow you up on that and say the exact same thing. I'm happy Bourne got his 1 win in, but as a franchise overall, I think Mad Max is stronger.
Me too. I would agree.
All right. We're in there. All right. Now here's a tough one.
This is a tough one.
Or is it?
I don't think so. I still have to give it to James Bond. I think James Bond has the longevity. I think a Mission Impossible might be more enjoyable visually, right? In terms of like the stunts, the quality of the films all around, I think are a higher quality than the James Bond ones. I would still think James Bond has an iconic theme. It has a consistent like action sequence and fun to it. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to beat James Bond, and I literally feel like you wouldn't have Mission Impossible without James Bond in many ways, and so I have to give it to the OG here. It's got to be James Bond.
I think I'm going to go with James Bond on this too, and I think the big reason why is because although they both have longevity, I've not watched the old Mission Impossible show. I've watched the old James Bond movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right, I'm going to also go with James Bond on this. Thing we haven't touched on yet is James Bond also has one of the most iconic video games of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
GoldenEye 007 for the N64 that is our catnip. So, yeah, I got to go with that franchise over Mission Impossible. Respect Mission Impossible, like it a lot. Go James Bond.
Okay. I also think James Bond's got Amazon money now. They're not going anywhere.
Pat's scared of that, but...
Yeah.
That's just fair.
Well, you know who has Amazon money too is the Lord of the Rings of Power show, and
it's
Rings
okay.
All right, this battle was lost right when I was born. I love the Lord of the Rings. I think the Lord of the Rings is like I've read the Lord of the Rings books more than I've read anything else. I have a huge fondness for the movies. I think they are, as a trilogy, the best trilogy of movies, hands down. I think Dan said it on the last podcast, like, Fellowship of the Ring is a comfort film. It's my second favorite film of all time. I love the Dark Knight series and what Nolan did with Batman there. But surprisingly, that's not even my favorite interpretation of Batman. I think 89 is still my favorite Batman, and I respect Nolan's vision and what he did there, but I'd still have to give it to the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna echo you on this. So even if we were only talking about the movies, I still think Lord of the Rings would win. Because I mean, there's no video games to go along with The Dark Knight, but there are video games to go along with these movies.
That Two Tower games is so good. PS2.
It is. Yeah.
There's been a bunch, and like there's if we're gonna talk about like I was kind of saving it, but board game wise, I don't know if there's a franchise that has more board games than Lord of the Rings. So yeah, that gets my vote as well. Love The Dark Knight, but I think Lord of the Rings is just it doesn't have a chance against it.
Yeah. If we were just talking the Batman franchise, like Batman in general, it might be a different conversation. And maybe that gets in next time. But if we're just talking the Dark Knight movies, sorry. All right.
Yeah.
So now let me tell you why Twilight wins. I'm joking. I'm kidding. It's not even close. Like, yeah, it's not even close.
Bye.
Look at that battle coming up. Oof.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, that is rough. Okay, but this is the battle right now. The Alien franchise versus the Spider-Man franchise. Man.
I defer. I don't want to lead this one off.
Okay, I'll lead it off.
Yeah.
I love the Alien franchise so much, but I just don't think it touches Spider-Man. Like I said, Spider-Man, the Spider-Man video game is probably better than any of the Alien video games. Isolation's awesome, but the Spider-Man game, man, it's so good. It is like one of the best games of all time. And I mean, Isolation is too. And I mean, Alien has a lot of good games, but the movies are all really great. And like I said, Spider-Man, they release 4 or 5 comics a week. They can release anything and people will eat it up. Whereas I always feel like Alien is like one bad release away from a 10-year hiatus. You know?
Yes.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a great point. I'm going to give it to Spider-Man 2. I don't know if there is comic books in my life without Spider-Man, right? Like, Spider-Man is that important to, like, understanding what it means to be a comic book character. And I think the quality of the films have been really, really, really good. I mean, even the bad ones, like Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2, those 2 films aren't great, but I still think they're pretty good and they're watchable and enjoyable. Yeah, I'll give it to Spider-Man 2. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate to do it, but I'm with you guys. Spider-Man is a stronger overall franchise. It doesn't have any Alien vs. Predator Requiem in its backlog to think up the joint. So yeah, I'd go with that too.
Yeah.
All right. Man, Alien, you put up a good fight. But...
It's a great franchise. I absolutely love that franchise.
Evil Dead versus Halloween.
Holy cow.
Yeah. How do you decide between those two? Like they're both iconic horror franchises, but they're so kind of different, you know?
Yeah.
And they're both important. Like they both stood the test of time. What was it? Halloween's like 78, somewhere around there, and Evil Dead was like 81-ish, I want to say.
Yeah.
And like they both been strong franchises. They've never really left the American zeitgeist. They've always been kind of around. I guess Evil Dead had kind of a lull there in the late 90s. But so did Halloween, I guess. Well, no, there was H2O. Boy, I'm kind of spinning my wheels on this. I'm gonna need more time to think on this. Could you guys take over and try to give me some ideas here? Give me some guidance.
I gotta give it to Halloween. And one of the big things I'm thinking of when I say that is Halloween costumes. It is one of the most, like, it's up there as like it has been, and it will continue to be one of the go-to Halloween costumes. Every Halloween you will see somebody wearing that, guaranteed. Halloween's got board games, it's got video games, it's got collectibles, so it's got everything that, like, I mean, granted, video game wise, Evil Dead's video games are probably better. but I think movie quality wise, although all the Evil Dead movies are good, I think the movies in Halloween that are good are just absolutely fantastic and iconic. So I think Halloween's got to get it for me.
I would say Halloween 1 is like the Super Bowl of slasher films for me. It is so good. It's really, really, really good. The Evil Dead franchise lived in a place in society where I can only describe it as like the underground cult, like a horror genre. It like lived below pop culture like phenomenon for a long time, and it existed there based on like a really dedicated fan base and a really loving culture of like, this is like a fun horror movie. And then it got brought back to life in the 2000s. And so I don't know if it's as clear cut in my brain as I thought it would be when I was looking at this. Like, yeah, I would lean towards Halloween, but in all actuality, I think I'm giving it to Evil Dead. Like, I think Evil Dead did something in terms of horror movies that, like, it doesn't really happen often, which is it existed in this cult status for a long time and then bloomed. And as a result, it has those collectibles. It has those, like, passion projects, spin-offs by comic book artists, by, like, the culture in general. It has a really ravenous fan base. I have to give it to Evil Dead.
All right, so that's on me then. And this is tough. This is really tough. Like, these are two of my like favorite franchises, and they're very similar. Like, you don't think about it, but they are. Like you said, like they there's comic books. There's the TV series for Evil Dead, which we haven't gotten from Halloween, but Halloween's put out more movies. Halloween's been around longer. So for me, I think what's going to decide it is that it's one of the points we made earlier on is when we talked about how simple and scary Michael Myers is, and how iconic that look is. Like, that puts it over the top just by a little bit for me. So my vote's going Halloween.
Yeah. I'm not upset over it. And I cannot believe how good of a fight Evil Dead put up in this category. It's great.
It's close. It's really close.
Well, and I think the thing with Evil Dead, because it's got such a history of being a cult classic.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
It was never supposed to win, right?
Yeah.
It was always just supposed to put up a really good fight, because that's what it always does.
Yes.
That's a great takeaway. You getting down the nitty gritty.
Yep. All right. Mad Max versus James Bond. This just drives me crazy that every round it's like, yep, Max.
Max. You know, I didn't even notice that until you pointed it out. Just say, just stop calling attention to it. You'll be all right.
I'm going to give it to James Bond again. I don't know if there's another franchise like James Bond in this bracket in general. Like, it made a transition from book to film, and then from film to pop culture mainstay, and then from pop culture mainstay to pop culture icon. I don't think, when you think of movies, I think you think of James Bond in some ways. And like, you think of action films and espionage and spies, you think of James Bond. And I don't think you think of Mad Max in that same sort of breath. I would give it to James Bond here.
Right, and I'm going to say the same thing. I think Mad Max is a great franchise, but I think James Bond is just much bigger and into, like, everyone knows James Bond. Whereas, like, some people probably don't know the Mad Max films, so yeah, I would lean that way.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think Mad Max has gone about as far as it can go. Once we're in with the big dogs here, unfortunately, because we didn't even talk until you just mentioned it. We didn't even talk about the fact that the James Bond movies are based on books.
Yep. Ian Fleming. Right?
Yep. Yeah. Ian Fleming.
So,
yep.
For some reason, I said it. I felt wrong immediately.
All right. Lord of the Rings versus Star Wars.
This is my personal hell.
Yeah. So
I'm describing it.
yeah,
Oh.
I'll take the lead on this one. I for years have said that Lord of the Rings is my generation's. Well, not my generation. I shouldn't say that like that, but like this is like the new Star Wars. I feel like that like those three movies, the first obviously three movies in the Lord of the Rings franchise, is going to be held in the same regard as the first three movies in the Star Wars franchise. And so you get that in there, and then you think about the impact, and you think about like all the spin-offs, all the takeoffs, all the everything, all the merchandise. These are the two of the biggest franchises in the history of the world. And just for me personally, I like Lord of the Rings better than Star Wars, so that would get my vote. But I'm completely fine with however this battle goes. But my vote goes Lord of the Rings.
Okay, so I'll go next because it seems like Paul is struggling with this a little bit, and I'm not. So I still got to hand it to Star Wars because I think Star Wars, for me, has shown that it can really do that whole thing where it makes like a Star Wars heist movie, a Star Wars, like I bet you could release a Star Wars horror movie. It's done shows. It's done a lot of shows, and it's done them better than Rings of Power. So
you hate Rings of Power.
You know, I don't hate Rings of Power, but like my point was just that like it's not been successful. You know.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's struggled with its tone. And like you look at Andor, that is, like Paul said, it's one of the best shows ever made. And it was based on a spin-off of a movie that everybody's like, oh, this is my favorite movie. And like I said this once, I'm going to say it again. Andor is so good that it almost makes Rogue One look bad. And that is the original one it's based on. That's how good it is. You look at The Mandalorian, they created a Western in this universe. Like, you couldn't create a Western in the Lord of the Rings universe. So you've got that you've got that genre fluidity that you can go in there. Some of the episodes of The Mandalorian are also like horror episodes. Like the episode with like the ice spiders that are chasing them.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
You can have those Monster of the Week things with that franchise. And you've had so many good Star Wars video games. You think of like Shadows of the Empire, you think of Star Wars Racer, you know, and then that's before you even leave the Nintendo 64. You've got two of the best games ever made. And so yeah, Star Wars has got it in my book.
Here is my argument for both of them. Lord of the Rings, I think, as a book series, established fantasy, right? Like, I would argue, and I have argued before, that Lord of the Rings' popularity established fantasy as a genre in the world. We really didn't have fantasy until we had Lord of the Rings. These, like, high elves and all of this stuff. D&D is a spin-off of Lord of the Rings in many ways, and so Lord of the Rings is so big. And then you talk about the movies, and the movies just, like, took that source material and made it so accessible and so brilliant and so beautiful. And so Lord of the Rings is very important. Star Wars, I think, is what you would call like the definition of a franchise. I think like they have the toys, they have the movies, they have the television shows, they have the books and the comic books, they have the clothes, they have all of this stuff. I think it has to be Star Wars here. As much as it pains me because I love the Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite movie, and I think Star Wars is just, like Pat said, I don't think there's anything that you could throw at Star Wars that they wouldn't find a way to make it stick. Like a Western, heist movie, an action, a soap opera. They did, like, in Andor, they did a version of The West Wing with Mon Mothma being her, like, political self. It's brilliant. So, yeah, I give it to Star Wars, too.
All right. I was really worried for a second there.
I was on the fence, man. Lord of the Rings is super great. Yeah.
All right, so we're up to our semifinals. We got Spider-Man versus Halloween and James Bond versus Star Wars. Wow. This is
Mm-hmm.
we're getting there. So let's kick it off with Spider-Man versus Halloween. So I guess I'll start us off on this. I think Halloween has made it as far as a horror franchise can make it in this battle royale. I think that Spider-Man it gets it for me for all the things that we've talked about. And let me know if I need to say anything further to convince anybody. But I think, yeah, it's still Spider-Man for me.
Yeah, Spider-Man for me as well. Love the Halloween franchise, but Spider-Man is it's everything that it has everything and more that Halloween has.
Yeah, it's Spider-Man for me too.
All right. Boom. Spider-Man makes it into the finals. All right. James Bond versus Star Wars. Anybody want to kick us off?
This is a juggernaut battle. I think James Bond, I've been behind James Bond the whole way so far, and I think James Bond is probably the only franchise that I would say that can go toe-to-toe with Star Wars and make me kind of, movie-wise, and make me kind of like question whether or not like it should be Star Wars. At the end of the day, it's Star Wars for me here. Star Wars has the better films, in my opinion. It has the better video games. I really love Rogue Squadron. The Rogue Squadron games are fantastic, in my opinion. And I think those are better than GoldenEye. The books, I think, I've read a lot of Star Wars books. One of my favorite ones just came out recently was the Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. It's a really great like history book on the Galactic Empire. And the comic books are really good. They had a really deep run of bounty hunters and the Crimson Dawn. And the fact that I'm even talking this much about Star Wars lore means something here. So it's Star Wars for me.
Dan?
Yeah, I can't argue against that. James Bond, obviously, there's been I don't even know, but like yeah, I would go Star Wars on this one. I like James Bond a lot, but I haven't voted for Star Wars yet, so I feel like I need to do that before people start thinking I hate the franchise.
Then it finally comes out that Dan hasn't actually seen the Star Wars.
Never
movie.
seen
Oh
a
no,
Star
I got
Wars.
it. I got it right there. The first three at least.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Star Wars as well. I mean, James Bond, it easily crushed a lot of the things leading to this point because it's such a strong franchise, and I think that it easily could go toe to toe with this. It could easily go toe to toe with Spider-Man, but I really just think that Star Wars has the ability to expand more than James Bond does. James Bond is very much in that action espionage area, and you know maybe Amazon makes them branch out into other genres, but I think they're going to be stuck squarely there. So Star Wars wins.
Oh,
The final
Yep.
we all expected.
Spider-Man versus Star Wars.
Okay, I can lead off because I think maybe I'll be arguing for the losing side here, but for me, I'm gonna go with Spider-Man. Gets my vote. I think he's been around a bit longer than Star Wars. I think like the whole idea, like him being like the Stan Lee creation of a kid, just dealing with being a kid and growing up, and then like that's kind of his basis. And uh, the franchise that spawned, like as we said before, it was Marvel's flagship for a long time. It probably still is. It has some of the best superhero movies of all time. Pat touched that briefly, but like even like the Spider-Man 2 game for like the PS2 was fantastic. But like the PS4 Spider-Man is one of the best games I've ever played. I heard the second one's as good, but I haven't had a PS5 to play it yet. The Miles Morales spin-off game is absolutely great and gets forgotten about for some reason. As you said, comic book wise, merchandise wise, you guys remember the I mean, Star Wars has all this stuff too, but I just want to give Spider-Man his fair shake. Like you guys remember like the ice cream pops as a kid with the
yeah,
gumball eyes,
yeah.
and like yeah, it's just Spider-Man for me is my choice here. It's a personal choice. Yeah, I mean I'm a superhero kid through and through, and Spider-Man is to me probably the biggest and best example of what that franchise can like that genre can do. And like he's got like you talk about genres, like he's done all kinds of things. There's the Craven Last Hunt stuff. There's the Spider Island stuff. They like ventures into horror. There's the stuff with him like getting like the six arms and such. There's the Sinister Six. There's a supporting cast of like one of the best rogues galleries, probably behind Batman in my opinion, with Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Craven, like Mysterio, like all those guys, Venom. You get that in there, like you get your spatial stuff, you get like Null and all that stuff. It's just so much to it that it gets my vote.
Yeah, I mean, I will go with the Star Wars side of this, and I will argue. I think Spider-Man is probably on any given Sunday I could pick Spider-Man here, but Star Wars has such a rich universe, and it is built off of like a movie that explains so much in so little. Like, there's a passing line about the Clone Wars, and suddenly we have movies and shows about the Clone Wars that just exploded out. We have like quick throwaways about spice mining and things like that, and then suddenly there's whole things on spice mining and building, and then there's the Death Star, and there's a whole lore on the Death Star, including multiple television shows and multiple different things. There's comic books. There are huge like fandoms. As much as I love Spider-Man, there is not like a Spider-Man celebration that happens every year. There's a Star Wars celebration that happens every single year with all Star Wars nerds who converge and come together and talk about Star Wars. I have one of my favorite Star Wars YouTube channels is called Star Wars Explained, and he goes into every single month what is the update on the canon and how big has it expanded. And surprisingly, it expands every month by at least 5 comic books and a book and sometimes television shows here. I think we're going to see a lull in Star Wars over the next couple years in which Star Wars isn't going to be as relevant as it used to be. There's not a huge amount of movies coming out. There's not a huge amount of television shows. And I think Star Wars is in a weird place now that Andor ended, because I don't know if anybody can affirmatively agree on what to do with Star Wars now that Andor's done. Like, do you follow that Andor trajectory, or do you continue going down the Filoni route and doing that fun sort of stuff? There's a real debate going on there in terms of how do you actually talk about the lore of Star Wars moving forward. So all of that is to say, it's Star Wars in my book. Yeah.
Man, this is really hard because I was kind of leaning one way, and then I switched over to leaning another, and then so I guess I started off oh, it's Star Wars, and then when Dan said everything, I was like, well, it might be Spider-Man. But now that Paul said that, it's well, it kind of is Star Wars. But I guess so. Kind of what I'm thinking here is so I do think that the next thing that's going to happen with Star Wars is Ahsoka, and I think Ahsoka season 2 is really going to establish some really, really cool things. And I loved Ahsoka season 1. I think the franchise is in a decent spot. If they can figure out a new trilogy that is sort of that path forward, I think that'll be really good. They've got the Mandalorian and Grogu movie coming soon. That, if that's successful, that'll be a trilogy. So I think, I do think that they're going to keep moving forward. One of the things that I'm thinking about is that sometimes for Star Wars, you do have to do a little bit of homework. You can't just jump into the universe. With Spider-Man, you can just jump in. You can just pick up one of the trilogies and watch it and be like, oh yeah, that's great. But you can't, you can kind of do that with Star Wars in a lot of cases, but you might have to explain some things, right? But somebody could pick up a Spider-Man comic, and generally they have that little blurb at the beginning that's Peter Parker was bit by a radioactive spider, and his parents, or his aunt and uncle, and all that, and it's a small blurb that's and you can pick up from there, and generally you're off to the races. It's just those stories, whereas I think that you have to always have a general knowledge of Star Wars to jump into any of the expanded content. But your point that there is a Star Wars celebration and they opened. There's no Spider-Man hotel.
Yeah.
There's no Spider-Man theme park.
It's a ride.
You know. But there's an entire theme park.
I know.
For Star Wars, an entire one. You know. Oh man, this is tough.
And there's the Snyderverse movies. We forgot about those. We forgot to talk about those again.
Yeah, you know, honestly,
You're still mad about the cliffhanger, I know.
you see, we're not getting a sequel to that until 2027 at least.
I know.
It's going to be 2028. I don't know what's going on there.
They fumbled the bag on that a bit.
I totally forgot about the Ahsoka series and like what they're going to do with Thrawn and all that stuff. Yeah. That's very true.
They're leading down a path there, and you know, so that's what is interesting. Is Dave Filoni is leading this whole path that's connecting so many of these things that have come in before. You know, it's connecting back to Star Wars Rebels. It's connecting back to Star Wars The Clone Wars. You don't really have to have watched those, but if you did, you're rewarded.
Yeah.
And then he's got the Mandalorian stuff that they're going to keep leaning down that road. And they could follow up the Andor series. You know, there's plenty of threads there that they could go down. I don't think they will for a little while, because they know that they're like, if we go down that road, it has to be good.
Yeah.
It has to be on that level. So I don't expect we hear anything about a sequel to Andor for another couple of years. But you know, I'm gonna give it to Star Wars. I think that Spider-Man is probably the only Marvel character that could have made it this far and put up such a good fight against Star Wars. But I think Star Wars at this point is really too big to fail.
Yeah, I think aside from Spider-Man, Batman is really the only other franchise that could be in this conversation of like, what is the best franchise? Like, it's debatable to me, and I lean Star Wars because I'm much more of a Star Wars fan, but I've read all the Spider-Man comics, and like, the Spider-Man villains are, I would lean more towards Spider-Man than Batman in terms of how good those villains are. Like Gabi and Doc Ock, Morbius, and we didn't even talk about like Draven or anybody like that, or not Draven, what's his name? Morlun, I meant. We didn't even talk about like Morlun and all that. And like the current universe of Spider-Man, the current comic book run is in a weird place with like Mary Jane and Paul and like that weird relationship, but even so, like I know I still lean Star Wars over Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yep, it's understandable.
All right, well, we have our winner. Star Wars, the winner of the Franchise Battle Royale, and what a battle it was.
Indeed.
Next time we will have to do a different battle where everything leads into facing off against Star Wars. Yeah.
What would we even do?
I mean, Jurassic Park was the big one I saw missing from this, but
I mean, there's a bunch of more franchises we could do. We could do just the Batman franchise. We could do just Marvel, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even do, like,
you could do
Superman.
Mario, that's only, like, one movie now, but that is a killer franchise.
And if we're talking about franchises, like, the Nintendo IP as a whole, like, all of those franchises are really, really... I mean, Pokemon? Like, come on.
I mean, when you get to the point where you, like, talk about how Star Wars has its own freaking day, it's hard to beat that. Like, it's got that fandom that...
Yeah.
Like, it's rabid, and like I know I never got to that level that I respect it, but like it's hard to beat that level of, you know, a devotion is the word I was looking for there.
Yes. Yeah.
When you go to Disneyland or Disney World, you can have them make a lightsaber for you.
I have
it's
one.
Like one of the coolest things on the planet.
For $800, because Disney likes your money.
You pay a lot, and it's upsetting when you walk away and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? what have I done? Like Anakin. But, like, here we are. I have that. I was going to build a droid, too, but I don't have that type of money.
You can build a
I
droid
think
there,
one of the
too?
reasons it got it for me was, like, I'm thinking about, like, the fact that, like, at anybody's point in life, they will watch the Star Wars original trilogy. And for a lot of the movies, that's the only homework you need to do, right? So it is actually very accessible. It's like, that's the starting point, and then you can watch this. That's the starting point, and then you can watch this, you know? So it is very accessible. And, like, you're going to be hard-pressed to find somebody that has not watched the original Star Wars trilogy. Plenty of people say just watch that, and then if you want to move on, but you have to at least watch that, you know? And if you don't move on from there, that's fine, you know? But, like, I think everybody on the planet, like, I think we're talking 90% of people, 95 maybe, have watched the original Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
That's probably accurate.
It's crazy.
What was the Back to the Future day? It's August 15th, right? It's not anywhere near as big as the Star Wars one, but they have a day, right? Don't they? Or am I thinking wrong?
Let's look it up.
Yeah, I didn't know Back to the Future had its own day.
October 21st.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah.
Because that's when he goes back in time or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man, those movies are so good.
They are.
And I think that was the tough part of this, is, like, separating.
Well,
Like, some of these, you're like Lord of the Rings. Fellowship is one of my favorite movies ever made, and so to argue against that is like, oh man, what have I got myself into?
Well, because we weren't talking about just movies. We're talking about franchises, and franchises is its own.
Yeah.
And we're
monster.
not talking our favorite. It's the franchise as a whole.
It would be really interesting to talk about just, like, comic book superheroes and keep it to, like, comic books and movies. Like, I don't know. I don't know if Spider-Man wins a bracket like that. It might be Batman. It might be Wolverine. Like, I think those are the three ones that would kind of duke it out.
Superman's got its detractors, but you got to respect him too. Like even the new movie I watched, I enjoyed the crap out of. You didn't like it as much as I did, but that's
I
all
did
right.
not like it as much, but I mean, you'd even put the Hulk in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Well, all right. Good
Yeah, it was fun.
discussions here.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys so much for joining and doing this.
Of course.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
I think that's a good place to wrap up for the night. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you everybody for joining us and watching or listening. And please give the show a follow on YouTube, Threads, Instagram, everywhere. It's at Bark Night Podcast.